She said it so softly I almost thought I imagined it. I miss being held. Then her hand found mine, slow, uncertain, like she was remembering how to reach for something warm. I didn't move. Couldn't. The air between us changed. The quiet hum of the fridge, the soft tick of the kitchen clock, suddenly too loud, like the world was leaning in to listen. Clara wasn't the kind of woman you could look at once and forget. She carried herself like someone who'd lived enough to stop pretending. Her hair, always loosely pinned, had strands that caught the evening light. When she smiled, rarely, carefully, it was like something private slipping through a crack in her guard. She moved in next door 6 months ago. I helped her carry boxes that day. Books mostly. A framed photo she turned face down on the counter before I could see it. We didn't talk much then, but every time I saw her after, in the garden or by her porch, I felt that same quiet pull, the kind that doesn't make sense but refuses to fade. Tonight it was just us. She'd invited me over because her record player had stopped working. Said I was handy with things. I wasn't, not really, but I said yes anyway. When I arrived, she'd already opened a bottle of wine. 2 glasses waited. Her kitchen smelled faintly of rosemary and dust. She wore a soft gray sweater that slipped a little off her shoulder, and when she noticed me notice, she laughed. That low, almost embarrassed kind of laugh. "You look nervous," she said. "I'm not. You are." She was right. I fixed the record player easily, a loose wire. The needle caught the vinyl with a gentle crackle, and music filled the room. Something old, slow, her kind of song. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching me like she was trying to solve a puzzle she didn't ask for. "You remind me of someone," she said. "Good thing or bad thing? I haven't decided." The room dimmed as the sun fell behind the blinds. The light on her face went softer, and her voice followed it down. "You ever get tired of pretending you're fine?" she asked. I didn't know what to say. Her eyes were steady, too steady. I looked away first at the record spinning at my hands. She stepped closer. I could smell her perfume, something floral, faintly sweet, familiar in a way I couldn't name. When her fingers brushed mine, it wasn't an accident. When she didn't pull back, I realized neither of us knew what to do next. The silence stretched thin. My pulse went slow. She looked down at our hands like they were something dangerous. Then she said it. "I miss being held." Her voice broke on the last word. Not much, just enough to hear the truth behind it. She reached for me again, and this time her palm rested fully against mine. Warm, real. I think she expected me to say something, a joke, a question, anything. But I couldn't. I was too busy trying to breathe, right? For a second, she looked like she might step closer. Her lips parted like a thought half formed. The music crackled again. Then, a sound from outside. Tires on gravel. A door closing. Her eyes darted toward the window. She let go. The record skipped once, twice. Neither of us moved. Then she whispered, almost to herself, "He shouldn't be here." And before I could ask who she meant, she turned off the light. The next morning, I tried to convince myself it hadn't meant anything. That moment in her kitchen. Just a slip, a reflex born of loneliness. But my hand still remembered the shape of hers, the quiet weight of it. I saw her again 2 days later. She was out front, pruning the roses by her porch. Same gray sweater, sleeves rolled up this time. I was taking out the trash, pretending not to look, pretending I didn't pause halfway down the steps. She caught me. "Morning," she said. Her voice was light, but there was something behind it, a trace of last night's shadow. "Morning," I answered too quickly. She studied me like she wanted to say something, then turned back to her roses. "You fixed the record player. I forgot to thank you." "You already did." "Then thank you again." I almost smiled. Almost. She invited me in later that week under the excuse of borrowing sugar. It was raining, one of those slow, steady rains that blur the world into soft edges. I followed her inside, shaking the water from my jacket, and she offered me tea without asking what kind. Her house smelled like old paper and lemon polish. A photo sat face down on the mantel again, the same one I'd seen the first day she moved in. I try not to look too long. "Was that your husband?" I asked before I could stop myself. Her hand froze on the kettle. A quiet breath. "Yes," she said finally. He died 3 years ago. I'm sorry. She nodded, still facing the window. So am I. She didn't say more, and I didn't ask. But the silence wasn't empty this time. It was tender in a way, heavy with things neither of us wanted to disturb. When she handed me the cup, her fingers brushed mine again. Just a second too long. It wasn't clumsy. It wasn't even deliberate. It just happened, like her body forgot what her mind kept trying to remember. Don't reach for him. I caught her looking once, her eyes dropping to my mouth, then away. She laughed, soft and embarrassed, and set her cup down too quickly. Sorry, she said, shaking her head. You make me nervous. Me? You're too kind. I wasn't sure if that was a compliment or a warning. The rain deepened outside, tapping steady against the glass. We stood by the window, both pretending to watch it. Her shoulder brushed mine, lightly, once then again, staying a heartbeat longer. I didn't move away this time. For a moment, she leaned into me, just enough that I could feel her warmth through the thin fabric of her sweater. I could smell her shampoo, faint and clean. My throat went dry. She must have felt my breath change because she whispered, barely above the sound of the rain, "This can't happen." But she didn't move. Neither did I. When she finally stepped back, it was slow, deliberate, like she was peeling herself away from something dangerous. "Good night, Eli," she said quietly. Her voice shook on my name, and as I left, I realized she hadn't borrowed any sugar at all. That'd be why the time spring edged in. Clara and I had perfected the art of pretending. Neighbors saw us talking by her gate, trading books, sometimes walking the same way to the cafe. Nothing more than polite smiles, quiet company. But underneath that small-town normalcy, there was a thread pulling tighter every time our eyes met. It was late one afternoon when everything almost broke. I was helping her rearrange the shelves in her living room. She'd finally decided to unpack the last of her boxes, the one she always said she'd get to someday. She stood on a stool, passing me stacks of old poetry books, her sleeves slipping down her wrists. Every few minutes our hands brushed. Every time, she paused just long enough for me to notice. This one was his favorite, she said, holding up a worn copy of Neruda. Her thumb rested on the spine. He used to read it out loud, even when I asked him not to. Her tone was steady, but the corners of her mouth trembled, a private betrayal of calm. I reached up to take the book. My fingers grazed hers. Neither of us moved. "Clara," she looked down, met my eyes, and for a split second, there was no distance. The air felt charged, electric. Then, the knock at the door. Sharp, sudden. She flinched, lost balance, and I caught her waist before she fell. Her body hit mine, light but real enough to scatter every rational thought I had left. Her breath hit my neck. Her heartbeat, quick and uneven, pressed against my chest. We froze like that. The knocking came again. "Clara? You home?" It was her friend, the one with the garden hat and loud voice. "Mrs. Avery." Clara's hands gripped my shirt, knuckles white. She whispered, "Don't move." I didn't. Couldn't. The door creaked open halfway. "You left your gate open." Thought I'd a pause. Then, "You're busy." "I'll come back." The door shut again. Silence. We were still standing too close. Too long. Her eyes lifted to mine, wide and startled, then softened. Slowly, her hands slipped from my shirt, fingertips tracing down before she let go. "That was close," she breathed, a half laugh that never reached her eyes. I could still feel her warmth where she'd been pressed against me. "Do you ever think?" I started, but the words fell apart halfway. She stepped back, shaking her head. "Don't." Her voice cracked, not angry, just tired. The kind of tired that comes from wanting something you know you shouldn't touch. But then, she looked up again, and something in her gaze undid every warning she'd just spoken. She reached to straighten my collar, a meaningless gesture, except her hand lingered. Her thumb brushed my throat. Once, twice. Neither of us spoke. The room hummed with everything we couldn't say. Her breath met mine, close enough that I could feel the tremor of it. Then, as if remembering herself, she pulled away, turned sharply toward the window. "It's late," she said, voice small. But when I left that night, she followed me to the door. And when I turned back, she was still there, hand resting on the frame, watching. Not saying goodbye. Not closing it. Either. It started with storm. The kind that makes everything else stop. Wind howling, windows trembling, power flickering. Clara called just after 9. Her voice was unsteady. The lights are out. I can't. Would you mind coming over? I didn't hesitate. When I got there, she'd lit a few candles. The room flickered gold and shadow, her face shifting between both. She stood by the window, sweater sleeves pulled over her hands, watching the rain. You didn't have to come, she said. I wanted to. She turned then, met my eyes, and whatever she saw there, she didn't look away from it. The wind rattled the glass. She flinched slightly, and I stepped closer without thinking. My hand brushed her arm, warm skin beneath soft fabric. She didn't move. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. You called me. That was a mistake. Then tell me to leave. Silence. The candle between us flickered harder, smoke twisting in the air. She finally exhaled, a slow, shaking sound. I can't, she said. Her breath came quicker now, uneven. The room felt too small, too hot. I reached out and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. My fingers lingered there against her jaw. She closed her eyes. Eli, the way she said my name, half warning, half surrender, almost undid me. I keep trying to stop thinking about you, I said quietly. It's not working. Her eyes opened again, shining in the candlelight. You shouldn't say that. But it's true. It doesn't matter. It does to me. Her laugh came out brittle, almost angry. You think this is simple? You think I haven't already? She stopped herself, looked away. You don't understand what people would say. I don't care what people... Well, I do, she snapped, then softer, almost to herself. I do. She turned from me, pressing a hand to her forehead. The candle flame wavered with her movement. I could hear her breathing, quick, uneven, as if she was holding something back that wanted to break free. I stepped closer again, close enough that I could smell the rain still clinging to her hair, close enough that my voice dropped without meaning to. You're not alone anymore, Clara. She froze, shoulders tense. My hand found her arm again, then her wrist, light but certain. She didn't pull away. Her head turned, just enough for our faces to almost meet. Inches. Her breath brushed my skin. Her voice came out as a whisper, trembling. If you don't stop, I won't either. The storm roared outside, thunder crashing, light flickering across her face. Neither of us moved. I could see the pulse in her throat. I could feel the space between us collapsing. Her hand came up, resting against my chest, not pushing me away, just feeling. Then the power returned, lights flooding the room, too bright, too sudden. We blinked, both stunned, still frozen in place. And then, softly, she said, You should go. But her hand didn't move that I didn't see her for 3 days. Her windows stayed dark at night. The garden went untended, roses bowing under their own weight. I told myself she just needed space, that what happened, or almost happened, had scared her. Maybe it scared me too. Then one evening, she came to my door. She looked different. Hair still damp from a shower, a thin coat thrown over whatever she'd been wearing at home. Her face was pale, eyes rimmed red. Can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside without a word. She stood by the couch, arms crossed, not meeting my eyes. I have to tell you something before you hear it from someone else. My stomach dropped. She drew a shaky breath. Mrs. Avery. She saw us that day, when you caught me by the shelf. She didn't just walk away. I didn't speak. She told the women at her book club. And now people are talking. Her voice broke on that last word. I took a step forward, but she lifted a hand. Not to stop me exactly, but to steady herself. They think we're having an affair. That you've been coming here at night. Her laugh came out thin, bitter. I suppose they're not entirely wrong. I wanted to reach for her, to tell her it didn't matter, that none of it could change what was between us. But she was trembling, jaw tight, like someone standing too close to a fire. It's not just gossip, she said quietly. The principal called me in today. Said parents were asking questions. About why you keep visiting. Clara, they could ruin me, Eli. She finally looked at me then, eyes full of something rawer than fear. You don't understand what that would mean for me. I did. I just didn't care the way she did. She stepped back, bumping into the edge of the table. Her hand brushed a candle there, and I reached out instinctively, catching it before it fell. My fingers closed over hers. We both froze. The contact hit like lightning. Her breath stuttered. "Don't," she whispered. "I'm not doing anything." "Yes, you are." Her hand tried to pull away, but I didn't let it. The air felt heavy, like the whole room had turned into a heartbeat. Then, softer, "Why do you keep coming back?" "Because I can't stop." She closed her eyes. "You shouldn't say that." "But you want me to." Her silence was the answer. I stepped closer, slow, careful. Her back met the wall. The space between us disappeared again. "You think this is just about you," she murmured, eyes flicking open. "But I'm the one who called you first." For a moment, everything tilted. What I thought I knew, what I'd been chasing. "You knew what you were doing," I said. I told myself I didn't. Her voice softened. "That's the lie." Her breath caught. I could feel the tremor in it against my throat. She looked up at me, eyes glassy, a confession in every inch of her face. "I started this, Eli. So if it ends badly, it's on me." And then, without warning, she brushed past me, her shoulder grazing mine, her hand trembling as she reached for the door. She didn't look back when she said, "Tomorrow, same time." The next night, the rain came back, softer this time, almost like a reminder. Her light was already on when I walked up the path. I didn't knock. I just stood there for a second, hand hovering over the door, trying to decide if I was about to ruin something or save it. Then she opened it herself, like she'd been waiting for me to hesitate. Neither of us said a word. Her living room was dim again, a single lamp burning low. The same song as before played from the record player, slow, quiet, haunting. She crossed her arms, then dropped them again, restless. "You came," she said. "You asked me to." She nodded, looking down. "I wasn't sure you would." I took a step closer. "You knew I would." Her laugh was short, almost bitter. "You make it sound easy. It's not." The space between us disappeared in slow motion, her shifting toward me forgetting how to keep still. We stopped when our reflections blurred together in the window. "I can't keep pretending this isn't happening," she whispered. Her voice trembled, but her eyes didn't. "I've tried to stop thinking about you," she went on. "It doesn't work. It just makes me miss things I shouldn't miss." I wanted to touch her then, not out of hunger, but out of recognition. That quiet ache we both carried had finally found its echo. "Clara, don't say my name like that," she said. "It makes it harder." Her breath brushed my chin. Her hand lifted, paused, then settled against my chest. I felt the warmth through the thin fabric of my shirt. Her fingers curled slightly, uncertain but wanting. "This is wrong," she whispered. "I know, and you still want it." "Yes." Her other hand rose, tracing the line of my jaw before stopping near my mouth. Her thumb hesitated there, as if testing what would happen if she crossed that last inch. "Everyone will know," she said softly. "Let them. You'll regret it. I already regret not doing this sooner." She inhaled sharply, a tiny, involuntary sound. Then she shook her head, almost smiling. "You don't know what you're asking for." "Maybe not, but I know who." That was the moment everything shifted. The air, the silence, the way her body leaned just enough that her forehead nearly touched mine. The record hissed faintly in the background, the rain tapping steady on the glass. For a long time, we didn't move, just breathing the same breath. Then, finally she spoke. "If we do this," she said, voice low, certain now, "there's no pretending after." "I'm not pretending anymore." Her hand slid from my chest to my neck, fingers trembling. Her lips parted, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her breath, the gravity of everything between us waiting to happen. The clock ticked once. The record skipped. And then, instead of stepping closer, she rested her forehead against mine. A shuddered sigh escaped her. "Then stay," she whispered. And I did. Morning came slow. The storm had passed, leaving the world rinsed and still. Clara's house felt different, softer somehow, like it was finally exhaling. The smell of coffee drifted through the kitchen, the record player still humming quietly from the night before. She stood by the counter, hair loose, wearing that gray sweater again, the same one from the beginning. Only now, she wasn't guarding herself behind it. When she looked at me, there was no pretending left between us. Neither of us said much. Words felt too fragile after everything that had already been spoken and everything that hadn't. She poured 2 cups, handed me one. Our fingers brushed, and this time it wasn't electric or dangerous. Just steady, real. I didn't sleep much, she said softly. Me neither. A small smile. You're going to be tired. I'll live. She leaned against the counter, both hands around her cup, eyes tracing the light through the curtains. I kept thinking about what happens next. I waited. I'm still scared, she admitted. About what people might say. About the difference between us. About wanting something that shouldn't make sense. Her voice caught on that last line, and for a moment she looked away. I stepped closer, took the cup from her hands, set it aside. You're not the only one who's scared. She laughed under her breath, small and tired. You don't look scared. I am. I just decided I'd rather be scared with you than without you. She looked up then, searching my face like she was testing whether I meant it. When she found her answer, her shoulders relaxed, and something in her eyes softened, a quiet kind of surrender. I reached up, brushed her hair back from her face. My thumb caught the edge of a tear she hadn't realized was there. Hey, I whispered. We made it through worse things than rumors. She nodded, voice barely there. I know. I just didn't think I'd feel this alive again. Her words hit harder than she probably meant them to. I pulled her closer, slow enough to give her room to pull away if she wanted. She didn't. Her forehead rested against my chest. Her arms came up around me, unsure at first, then certain. The silence stretched, not heavy this time, but warm. The kind that feels like belonging. I pressed a kiss to her hair, breathing her in, coffee, soap, something faintly floral that clung to her skin. After a while, she looked up and whispered, You're staying for breakfast, right? I smiled. Wasn't planning on leaving. She laughed quietly, that low, honest laugh I hadn't heard in too long. And for the first time since she moved next door, her face didn't look haunted. It looked like peace. Outside, the rain had stopped. The light caught the window, painting us both in gold. She took my hand, not trembling, not uncertain, and laced her fingers through mine. We didn't need to say it, but we both knew. This was the start, not the aftermath. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?